Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day. I want to talk about something. I got a TikTok account, I got a Twitter account, Facebook, basically everything. And I just want to say to all the parents, guardians out here, you need to watch your children on these apps. I've witnessed some very serious, predatory, disgusting type stuff on every one of these apps. Kids are going missing every day. Age doesn't matter. All ages. It's a really scary time because, back in the day, I got one sprig of hair right here and it's driving me crazy. It's just standing up. See it? Somewhere right in there and it's making me nuts. Back in the day, I'm almost 36 years old. So I grew up as a child in a time where we rode our bikes every day, till the tires wore out. We stuck plastic bottles, over the tire to make that ning noise, make it real loud. We were told to go outside all day. Some things in our childhood could be pretty bad. Some things were pretty good. But we grew up in a time where, while it was dangerous, it was more safe than it is now, if that makes sense. In a community where most people would look out for you and look out for your kids. Despite a few that we had issues with, But all in all, there were a lot of, good parents who were very protective, probably overprotective. Nowadays, with the internet, predators are they have so much more access, is what I'm trying to say. To where back then, you kind of had to catch a kid alone, or you had to catch a teenager alone or with their friends, to kind of grab them or talk with them. To where now, you can talk to a 5-year-old child on YouTube. You can talk to a 5-6-year-old kid, maybe younger, on TikTok, on Facebook. Parents, I'm telling you, monitor what your children are doing on these apps. We had another 14-year-old girl go missing a couple weeks ago. They found that little girl. We had a little girl, 12-year-old girl, go missing a few months ago. Nathan Larson met her on the internet and ended up kidnapping her. That's terrifying. It's been happening for years, but it still is terrifying. It doesn't get any easier knowing that these predators have such easy access to our youth. And that's why I'm saying we have to understand, as a parent or guardian, it is our job to protect our youth, our children. Yes, they're going to get mad. Yes, they're going to say we're invading their privacy. Yes, they're going to say that you are the meanest, biggest butthole in the world of a parent. Oh well, I'd rather your child be mad and pissed off with you than be disappeared and found somewhere in a worse way. We have to put all of our cards on the table and realize these are our children. These are your children. And when you hand them this is like basically handing a 10-year-old the keys to a car. Does that make sense? You're giving this child full-blown access to the world, which is, again, like handing a teenager the keys to a car and saying, hey, go wherever you want and do whatever you want whenever you want. Be back whenever you get back. You can't do that. You have to say, okay, wait a minute. You're going to drive here. You're going to be safe. You're going to, wear your seatbelt. You're not going to go here. You're not going to go there. You're not going to be doing this, doing that. You set rules. Well, those rules that you set when your teenager's learning to drive should be the same kind of rules that you set when you're letting your children use these. Tablets, laptops, computers, iWatch. I said iWatch. I don't know what it's called. Anything that has internet access is like handing the keys to a new driver. You have to have rules. You have to have guidelines. You got to set boundaries to protect them and others. It's scary because I have witnessed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of children on the internet. And I've been shocked at some of the stuff I've seen, but to keep hearing about these predators kidnapping children, and I read the story, the article, and I'm like, okay, well, how did he, meet this 12-year-old little girl? And when I'm reading the story, it's, oh, well, she had been messaging him for months. How did she get his phone number? Oh, he found her on Facebook, and he added her, and she added him back, and they just started Facebook messaging, and her parents didn't know she was talking to him because they never checked her messages, never checked her phone, never checked her browser history. And I'm just sitting here like, really? Really? I mean, when I was 12 years old, maybe times are just so different, I don't know. But when I was 12, when I would go stay the night at a friend's house, if they had a phone, I had to call home and be like, hey, we made it back home from the fair, or hey, I'm about to go to bed, I love you, good night, or whatever. The next morning when I got up, I had to call and be like, hey, you gonna pick me up at this time? Or, call before the pickup time of like, it's 3 o'clock, are you on your way? Blah, blah, blah. But we had so much more responsibility over our kids back then. Now, it's like, oh, just give it to them and let them do whatever they want. Let them talk to whoever they want. Because as long as she's in, he or she is, as long as the child is in the home where I can see them, nothing's going to happen. But what you guys keep forgetting about is your children are going to leave the home at some point. They're going to go to the grocery store, they're going to go to school, they're going to go to a friend's house, they're going to go to a hockey match, they're going to go to a baseball practice, they're going to go to a football practice, cheerleading practice, whatever it may be. Art show, car show, anything. They're going to leave at some point, alone or with someone. They're going to go to the bus stop to get on the bus. And you don't know how much information these people on these devices have on your child, because you're not checking the browser history. You're not talking with your child about it. You're not, even if you are saying don't talk to strangers, they're talking to strangers. If they're on Facebook, they're talking to strangers. If they're on TikTok, they're definitely talking to strangers. I'm not saying to, crom them down in a room where they can't do anything or good. No, never would say that. I'm saying monitor these apps, please. Because if you go back and you watch my Nathan Larson video where this grown-ass man openly talks about wanting to marry and impregnate his own daughter when she was a baby, he openly talks about wanting to become like a senator or governor or whatever and change the laws where incest is legal. And he talks about wanting to allow children to have marital relationships with adult men. This man kidnapped a 12-year-old girl and actually managed to get her across country. I'm not blaming her parents. This man is a known predator. His ass should have been in prison. He was in prison for threatening the president. He wrote a letter to the Secret Service threatening the president. And they gave him 14 months. That was it. 14 months. He tells the public that he is a predator. He tells everybody that he's a predator and what he wants to do. And the FBI and the government still allowed him back out on our streets. And he managed to do exactly what he told us he was going to do, which was be with a child. Guess what? He got one. Thank goodness the child was found, and she was found safe. I don't know what had happened to her physically, if anything happened. I don't know that. But she was found, and she was alive, and she was okay. They got her back home to her family. But again, this is why I'm telling you guys, monitor what your children are doing on these stupid apps, please. Yes, I have a Facebook, I have a TikTok, I have Twitter. I haven't been on my Facebook much because I don't really like it. Hold that thought. Okay, I'm back. But all in all, I was raised up in North Carolina and partially South Carolina. Hey, you get out of that right now, mister. Hey, mister, you come on and get out of that right now. Thank you. Good boy. I grew up in North Carolina, and I grew up in a community, very poor. We had a lot of predators. in this community, even with all the protective parents. Excuse me, ow. We didn't have social media like we do now. But let me just tell you guys a little story, okay? So back when we were in school, you know, this was the early 90s when I was in school. I was in like 3rd grade. And we used to do this thing every year from like 2nd grade up. It was pen pals. And we got to have a pen pal with just some random person around the world. We didn't know who it was. The teacher half-assed didn't know who it was. We just knew that we were writing letters with someone. Now, this is back in the day where they would just get an address and a name, and, you know, that was it. So I had this pen pal for about 3 years. We started talking in these letters when I was in like 3rd grade. We wrote letters back and forth until one day. Now, the teacher was supposed to monitor these letters, but she wasn't going to monitor no 38 letters from, you know, and then she had like 2 or 3 different classes, altogether about 80, 90 letters. She didn't do that. So this pen pal of mine started asking personal questions. Now, the first time they were asking about the location and my name, you know, things like that, the teacher thought it was another child, so they let it slide. After that, they didn't even check. Me being in 3rd grade, I answered these questions honestly. I would tell where I lived, what I liked, my favorite color, my favorite animal, how many times I'd been to the zoo, what my family was like. I gave all kinds of information to this person. Had no idea who it was, just like I said, was told it was a pen pal. Back then, it was a big thing because we didn't have the internet. It was like having the internet but on paper. And it was so fun. And we would draw pictures, send them back and forth. But this person got to where they were asking very personal questions. This person was pretending to be an 8-year-old child. I didn't realize until about 2 years later, when I was in like 5th grade, this was a grown man who was pretending to be an 8-year-old child who was also in the 3rd grade when we had originally met. For 2 years, we talked on paper and shared personal, childlike stuff. You know, I like Hot Wheels, but it got personal. Even in the 3rd grade, he would ask me where I lived, and I would tell him. Now, I'm sure if they do that in school, the teachers will monitor it. Like I said, back then they didn't. I gave out my full-blown address and phone number and everything. I don't know, maybe we were taught stranger danger, but it wasn't pushed on us. It just wasn't. Like, we had to work so much, and being taught how to change a tire was more important. Being taught how to milk a cow, how to fold clothes, do laundry, cook supper, feed animals, that was more important than teaching stranger danger for our families, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think they had nothing to worry about because things like that weren't reported as much in our little communities. I don't know what the reason was why they didn't teach us better stranger danger, but they didn't. I wish they had of. But anyways, by the time I was in 5th grade, I continued to get these letters from this person. And then one day, he wrote me a letter asking for a picture. And I had this, my friend, not me, my friend had this little camera that you could put the film stuff in. It would take a quick black and white picture about that big. We had done that a few times at her house. So I got one of those little old pictures of me, put it in an envelope, sent it off. You know, and by this point, I was writing letters from my house. Nobody knew. I just didn't ever tell nobody. I didn't think it was wrong because we did it in school. And I would get envelopes and stamps from my grandma. And these letters, you know, would come back and forth from the community mailbox or the personal mailbox. And then I sent the picture, kept sending letters. And then one day this person was like, I want to come play with you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that would be great. I don't have any friends. I would love to have a new friend come over and play and blah, blah, blah. And at 5th grade, I was starting to mature a little bit. Not much at all, just a little bit. And I was like, well, you know, you can come, you know, we'll walk, go through the woods, blah, 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 you know, hike. Because I was getting into hiking a lot. I loved hiking. And they were like, oh, great. Well, later on, because I went some time without receiving a letter. Sometime later on, right before I started 6th grade, I got a letter saying, I'm in North Carolina. I moved to North Carolina. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Where does your parents, what, area did they move to? And blah, blah, blah. And this person was like, oh, we moved to the mountains and, I'm only like 3 hours from you. I can come see you now. And I'm like, that's great. I went a few more months without getting a letter. And then all of a sudden, one day, I got a letter without a stamp. Had no stamp on it at all. And it was like a Polaroid picture of my school. And this person was like, I know what school you go to. I know where you live. I want you to meet me at 8 o'clock this evening. 12 o'clock tonight at the end of the road where the dirt road ends. I'm thinking to myself, me talking to this person for almost 2.5 years, I didn't feel threatened. I actually felt like I was getting attention. So that's why I'm trying to tell you, in a child's mind, it's not a danger type feeling. It's a friend. It's a good feeling. It's, oh, I'm getting attention for once type of feeling, which can lead to very dangerous situations. Sorry, I had to stop again. My friend keeps coming in asking me 100 questions. It's driving me nuts. Anyways, it's like as soon as you start trying to do a video, that's when everybody wants to talk to you about something, Anywho, so I feel like I'm getting all this attention and I'm loving it. So 12, I show up a little bit early, like 11, 12. I snuck out to go down there and I didn't see anybody. I was like over a half hour early. Sitting there looking around and I see this car parked over in the edge of the woods, and it's a big burly type dude. Toboggan on, toboggan's like rolled up. I'm thinking, who is this? And wait a minute, how would this child, why would they want to meet at 12 o'clock at night? How would they drive? They're only the same age as I am, and I don't have a license. How are they getting here? Is that their dad? Are they with their dad? My brain starts to tumble a little bit into, what am I doing? Wait a minute, it's almost 12 o'clock at night. If I get caught, I'm going to get in hot water and get my ass beat. And this is dangerous. I don't even know who this... Wait a minute. My brain just starts going. And I'm like, how could they have gotten here without an adult to drive them? It starts to click. Luckily for me, it started to click. So I haul ass back towards the house. And I just hide in my room, close the window, and hide out. I stayed up all night long and kept seeing a car go back and forth in front of my house. I never woke my parents up because I was terrified of getting in trouble. I should have, but again, as a child, you don't think that way. You only think about you're going to get in trouble. So the next morning, I go to get on the bus, and there's a car sitting right at the edge of the dirt road where I get on the bus at. And this person comes up, and it's a man, a grown man, comes walking up, and he's like, says my name. Hey, we've been talking for 2.5 years. You want to let's go to town, let's go shopping, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you said you were my age. No, you need to go. This dude tries to grab my arm. Luckily, there's 7 other kids getting on the bus with me, and some of their parents are pulling down the driveway, and he leaves. That could have went a lot worse. I've had a lot of dangerous situations I've been in the middle of, and that was one of the scariest. There's more to that story, but I'm fixing to have to go because she's fixing to ask me. I see her on my camera. She's pulling right back up again. Bless her heart. She has no idea. She's trying to learn how to do these shirts. So, I'll tell you guys more later.